So there's that. Also, this story, the transfer portal, the NCAA will still have to approve this, but the transfer portal saying that they're going to cut it back, reduced to 45 days in all sports. 30 days after the season, 15 days in the spring for football, men's basketball. You see the number, 45 days. Right now, it's split up over a couple of different sections, chunks. It will still have that as far as football is concerned, but it will be down from, 60 days to 45 days. They still have to prove it with the NCAA Council.
Yeah.
I still don't know if they're actually going to, they're trying to enforce it this year with some controversial decisions that were possibly grandfathered in. But I'm not being old school, get off my lawn. I do think it got to the point where it was so widespread. You do need to have at least, here is when you can enter, here is when you can, make decisions, and you can't just do it at any time randomly.
Well, yeah, look, two things can be true. Yes, you can fix a rule that was kind of getting difficult to enforce and difficult for coaches and universities and everybody to navigate through in a reasonable calendar amount of time. But you can also make a terrible, stupid decision that is very short-sighted and retroactively do it when you have, coaches telling players to get in the portal. This is that what the NCAA did about it this year with all these decisions was you also eliminate the fact that you have players that went of their own volition and the coaches would have liked them to stay, but they went and left, chasing NIL dollars or whatever it was. But you also had a bunch of players that coaches told to get in the portal and then can't be eligible because they did what the coach told them to do. Very famously, the video of Deion Sanders told people to get in the portal. Well, if the coach tells you to do it and you do it, then NCAA shouldn't really be able to punish you for that, because they made a rule. They could have just started it the next year and been out of all of this.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's no perfect way to go about doing it, Craig.
Yeah, I don't have any scorching hot opinions on, a lot of these rules and these tweaks that they're making. I know there's another one that's involving the photo shoots that I'm sure we'll probably get to. And so to me, it just seems like they're just trying to sort of tighten up the calendar. And I think it really is, as much as anything, just a benefit for the coaches and staffers involved to try and alleviate some of the 365-day-a-year sort of job that they're in currently, where it does feel like there's something, and there's never-ending dates that you have to be doing one thing or another, and there's no real breaks in the calendar. So I think that they're trying to create some of that and just tighten up the ship a little bit, which I don't see as a bad thing. What are we asking for? Just unlimited, like you can just do whatever, whenever. So I don't think this is that big of a deal. I do think if you're one of those players, you're going to have to pay particular attention to what the calendar looks like for your particular sport, because it's going to be different depending on sport. But based on what I was reading, if the season's end approaching and you feel like you're probably leaning that way, be ready. As soon as the season's over with, you better be ready to hop in that bad boy if you hadn't already and get to work on your visits and figuring out what you're going to do next. So, yeah, this has been something they've been tweaking ever since it, was created. And, it's not that big of a deal, I guess, to us on the outside looking in the long run. We'd have to talk to student athletes, see how it really affects them. But I think this is just trying to, like I said, create some space and some time off and, just make it a little sharper.
It was almost like you open up the dam and you're like, oh, damn, where are we going to get the water to go? And in a way, it was just the floodgates open with NIL, transfer portal, then the extra year from COVID. The NCAA Council permanently drops the new player limit for football. Remember, there was the scholarship limit you could bring in. I think that's been basically just completely wiped out because you've had G.J. Kinney, Texas State. You've had Deion at Colorado, among other schools that have brought in 50-something players or more or had that kind of a changeover in their roster. But the 25 limit was also based on signing players, scholarship players. So they're going to now, that basically has been eliminated, the initial counter limit for both the FBS and FCS.
Max Olson put it best in look, you couldn't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And also, it's really hard to maintain competitive balance when you have 85 scholarships and you can't get to 85 scholarships because you've got these wonky things. And so if you have 85 scholarships available every year and you lose 31 people out of your program and the new coach has to go get 31 new guys and he has only 25 scholarships available to do that, that means he's going to have 79 scholarship players. that he can go get, and then he's going to have to give scholarships or not use them for on walk-ons. So there is certainly, they've just, the way that the rules are now, it doesn't make sense to limit the overall number of signings in a year, and you just have to keep under the 85 scholarship limit, but you should be able to sign to the scholarships you have available, because the big boys, like Georgia's never going to have a year where they're like at 78 scholarships going, well, what do we do here?
Yeah.
They're going to have 85 scholarship players, but there could be a situation where Missouri, who's in Georgia's division and plays them, is in that same spot, and they're like, oh, we're kind of stuck here.
Yeah, I think just post-COVID and with the transfer portal, this is something you kind of had to do. So, yeah, just it's more tweaks and makes sense to help out coaches and programs to better, round out their rosters. And sure, there will be some that, play with the rule more than others and go crazier than others as far as the number of guys. But, yeah, let's see how this plays out. But, yeah, it's really just an answer to the chaos created when COVID hit and all the roster shuffling and the transfer portal and all those things. So, again, another rule where it seems like they're not trying to put the genie back in the bottle. They're just trying to, I guess, clean up, as best they can and make it a little bit tighter, the rules. So, in this case, it's actually freer because there's not that cap limit, but I'm curious to see how individual programs go about using this, because I'm sure there will be some extreme cases or two, whether it's a new coach coming in or, just somebody has a different type of idea of the way of doing things and flipping a roster that will be notable at some point in time that we'll be talking about. So, yeah, we'll see.
We will have Mac Rhodes on a little after 5 as the AD. He was at Big 12 meetings yesterday up in Dallas, and as Craig mentioned yesterday, all 18 schools, those two out here soon or in the summer. Texas OU have that huge game in Dallas. The 4 that are a part of it, along with the 8 remaining, and then the incoming 4 had representatives at the meetings. We'll talk to Mac about that, plus a couple of these new rules and also ideas from the NCAA Council. Here's another one that Craig mentioned. This is from Nicole Arbach. The NCAA is also, there we go. They are now, the Football Bowl Subdivision Oversight Committee introduced legislation into the pilot legislative process to prohibit, during a football prospective student-athletes unofficial visits, institutional involvement or arranging photo shoots, photographing the prospective student-athlete, about accompanying the prospective student-athlete. In other words, all these photo shoots, it's a lot of words. They're basically almost the same thing. Go ahead.
In English, it's basically, if you're not an official visit, you're not getting the big photo shoots that you see all over Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, I'm sure, and all the jazzy lit, background sort of cool setups. Rotating cameras and all that kind of stuff. The infamous Brian Kelly photo shoot when he first got to LSU with a recruit, and the viral, the Florida player, a recruit and his dad that were on the visit, stuff like that. I mean, if it's an official visit, you can still do that. But if it's unofficial, then you're no longer having to do that if you're the staff that's involved. And so basically this is one where, again, I think they're trying to in some ways lighten the load in some areas. And so as you've seen, probably there are a lot of reactions of, recruits probably won't like this, because if you're on an unofficial visit to Texas A&M, you're like, hey, I'm going to get my photo shoot. Now Texas A&M doesn't have to do that if you're not an official visitor. But while that sucks for a player who's probably looking forward to that, for the staffers involved, it seems from all the reactions that I've seen, SIDs and whatnot, they are absolutely thrilled over this news, because it will save them a lot of time, a lot of money, and, a lot of headaches in some ways.
And, again, that's for the unofficial visits.
Yeah,
it also said here, Nicole Arbach adding that parents or a mom can still take a picture of their son on a visit. That's possible, but as far as the school doing it and then things being splattered up on social media, that is not the case. It's the unofficial visits, not the ones that are official. You could have somebody take an official visit and take 2 or 3 unofficial visits along the way, if that's the school that they're really serious about looking into.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it feels like a party pooper type of rule, doesn't it? Where you're like, oh, the NCAA doesn't want fun. But I can only imagine the setup when you're having to, slog through 35 kids with photo shoots on any given, Saturday recruiting camp visit type of a deal. So, like I said, probably not the most fun rule in our heads, or for those who just love the concepts of those photo shoots and what comes from those, and certainly not cool for the recruits who will be on unofficial visits who like that type of thing. But yeah, for the staffers, that's going to save them a lot of time and a lot of money.
God, it's got to feel at some point like Little League photos. Like, all right, come on, get in here. And then you have, because you're recruiting, like with Little League photos, it's like, all right, Billy, come on. You're a home run hitter. Let's do it. Okay, go.
And then granddads,
but yeah, and then all that. You and I, this is a funny story now, but we were on the phone together one time. I was at the Davey O'Brien Award, and I was waiting for my interview with RG3, and you were like, Paul, the show's going to be over, and I was like, I literally yelled out in the hallway, the bleep you want me to do, Smokey. Yeah. Everybody and their bleeping grandmother is getting pictures and all these permutations. And finally, he saw me and we got it done. But I was like, I can't, all these people who've paid this money to get here are just standing like, okay,
they want
now
a picture.
Grandma and Grandpa. Yeah. Now Grandma and Tito. And you're like,
no. And Max Olson, by the way, saying that the photo shoots only on official visits, something Ohio State and fellow leaders in the personnel space have been pushing for, and I don't blame them one bit. That's from Max Olson. He'll join us tomorrow on 365 Sports, and there's the biggest fly. It's almost bumblebee size. It's attacking the set. Also, the portal, speaking of which, on the decision earlier to close out the number of days or shut down down to 45, will open this year on December the 4th. That's when the portal, that's right after championship weekend. And as far as conference championship weekend, the portal will open on December the 4th. Now,